My life was a series of controlled descents. I'm a Coast Guard rescue swimmer. My job is to drop from a multi-million-dollar helicopter into 20-foot seas to pull idiots out of the water. My world is loud, it is violent, and it is governed by one non-negotiable rule. We save lives, not property. We are not sentimental. We leave the boat, we take the person. I am, by all accounts, a professional, and I have zero patience for amateurs. The first time I saw Dr. Miles Freeman, he was a massive amateur. We got the call on a Tuesday. A 25-foot research vessel, dead in the water, taking on water, in a sudden squall that had blown up out of nowhere. The seas were a nightmare, a chaotic, churning mess. I was the one on the hook. They lowered me down, and the scene was exactly what I expected. A small, high-tech, and very expensive boat getting hammered by the waves. And one guy on the deck, fighting a losing battle with a bilge pump and not wearing a life vest. I unclipped from the hoist and landed hard on the pitching deck. The guy looked at me, and he wasn't scared. He was furious. "Finally," he yelled over the wind. "The engine's flooded. You have to help me save the sonar array. It's my entire research." I just stared at him. He was a skinny, wiry guy, vibrating with a kind of manic, intellectual energy. I grabbed a life vest from his own bulkhead and threw it at his chest. "Put it on," I yelled. "We're leaving." "What?" "No, we are not leaving. This is a $200,000 piece of equipment. My data. I don't care if it's the Ark of the Covenant, man," I said, grabbing his arm. "I am not losing a crew for your laptop. We save lives, not property. Now move." He fought me. He actually tried to fight me, a 220-pound rescue swimmer in full gear. It was pathetic. I didn't have time. I got him in the harness, and I clipped him to me. "You are destroying my life's work," he screamed, as the hoist took our weight and pulled us off the deck. "Better than the ocean destroying your life." I yelled back. We watched from the helicopter as his boat, his life's work, finally slipped under the waves and was gone. He didn't say a word the whole flight back. He just vibrated with a white-hot, silent rage. His name was Miles. He was a marine biologist, and I was officially the man who had just ruined his career. We were stationed in the same tiny coastal town, a place with one diner and one bar. I couldn't get away from him. I'd see him in the diner, sitting in a booth, surrounded by wet, salvaged notebooks, glaring at me over his coffee mug. I was the face of his failure. I tried to apologize. Sort of. I sat down across from him 2 days after the rescue. "Look, man," I said, "I'm sorry about your boat. But you were in a 5-foot swell with a dead engine. You were going down. That's the math." He finally looked up from his notebook. His eyes were a sharp, intelligent, and exhausted blue. "The math," he said, his voice a low, furious tremor, "is that you just set my research back 3 years. I was tracking a pod of migrating blue whales. A pod that hasn't been seen in this quadrant since 1978. That data, it's irreplaceable. The data doesn't matter if you're dead, document." "That's where you're wrong," he said, his voice quiet but intense. "It's the only thing that matters. You're just a brute. A hammer. You see a problem, you hit it. You don't understand the why. You don't understand that some things are worth the risk. Nothing," I said, leaning in, "is worth my crew going in the water after you. You made a bad call. You risked my life and my pilot's life for a bunch of files. So yeah, I'm the brute. You're the reckless, selfish one. Stay off the water." I left. The war was on. We were 2 stubborn, driven men, stuck in a town that wasn't big enough for both of us. I was the guy who pulled people out of the ocean. He was the guy who willingly entered it. I couldn't understand him, and he clearly couldn't understand me. The turning point came a week later. I was off duty, walking the docks, just trying to clear my head. The storm was gone, but the sea was still angry. A huge groundswell was rolling in, a leftover from the storm system. The water in the marina was a surging, powerful, dangerous mess. And then I saw him. Miles. He wasn't in a boat. He was on the dock, next to a small, new, second-hand boat he must have just bought. And he was in trouble. He was trying to secure the mooring lines. The swell was yanking the boat, a 20-foot outboard, with incredible force. The boat would surge, and the thick, nylon line would snap taut with a sound like a rifle shot. He was small, and the boat was big. He was getting dragged all over the dock, his hands raw. I should have kept walking. It wasn't my problem. He was an idiot. I couldn't. I started running. "You're gonna lose a finger," I yelled. He looked up, his face a mask of frustration and panic. I can't the aft line. It's too heavy. He was right. As I got closer, I saw the problem. The main, stern side line was grinding against the rough, barnacle-encrusted piling. The friction was immense. He was trying to haul it in, and it was just stuck. Let it go, I yelled. You can't fight that much tonnage. If I let it go, it'll smash against the pier, he yelled back. It's all I have left. Just as he said it, a massive rogue swell, bigger than the rest, rolled into the marina. It lifted the boat like a toy. The boat surged away from the dock, and the rope, the one he was holding, snapped. The sound was like a cannon shot. The rope, free of its tension, whipped back. Miles was still holding his end. The force yanked him off his feet like he was a rag doll. He flew off the dock. He hit the water. The churning, freezing, 38-degree water between the boat and the pilings. The single most dangerous place to be. I didn't even think. My training just took over. I kicked off my boots, grabbed a life ring from the stand, and I was in. The cold was so total, it stole my breath. I surfaced, my eyes scanning. I saw him. He was trying to tread water, but the heavy, waterlogged jacket he was wearing was already pulling him down. And he was panicking. The smart, intellectual, data is all that matters guy was gone. In his place was just a terrified, drowning man. Stop fighting, I roared, swimming the 10 feet to him. I've got you. I got my arm around his chest. He, in a classic, panic drowner move, tried to climb me, tried to push me under. I had to hit him. A short, hard, open-palmed slap to the face. It stunned him, just for a second. Stop. Fighting. Me. I said, my voice a low, animal growl in his ear. He finally went limp. I got the life ring around him, and I held him. I kicked us away from the pilings, away from the boat. Hold on, I said. Just hold on. We were in the water for maybe 2 minutes. It felt like 2 hours. The cold was seeping into my bones. He was shaking, a violent, uncontrollable tremor. By the time the dock master and 2 fishermen had pulled us out, we were both blue. They wrapped us in old wool, fish-smelling blankets. We were sitting on the dock, side by side, our teeth chattering so hard it was a new kind of rhythm. He was just staring at the concrete, his entire body shaking. He hadn't said a word. So, I said, my own voice trembling from the cold. That's twice. He finally slowly turned his head. His face was pale, his lips blue. But his eyes were on fire. He wasn't angry. He wasn't scared. He was something else. You hit me, he whispered, his teeth chattering. You were drowning me, I said. You saved my life. Again. It's the job, man, I said, trying to shrug, but I was too cold. No, he said. He was looking at me, really looking at me. Not as a brute, not as a hammer. As a person. The first time, that was your job. This time, you were off duty. You were just there. He was right. I was just there. You're the most reckless, stubborn, and infuriating man I have ever met in my life, I said, my voice rough. And you, he said, a small, shaky, almost hysterical laugh in his voice, are the most competent. You're so goddamn real. He was still wrapped in his blanket. I was wrapped in mine. We were a foot apart, but we were in our own private post-trauma bubble. Don't do that again, Miles, I whispered, and I was shocked by the raw, real, actual fear in my own voice. Don't you ever do that again. I can't. I couldn't finish. I couldn't say, I can't pull you out a third time. He just looked at me. He saw it. He saw the crack in my armor. He saw the guy who wasn't just a professional. He saw the guy who was, for the first time, actually scared. And he closed the distance. He was still shaking. He leaned in, and he put his cold, wet, chattering mouth on mine. It was the worst kiss of my life. It was all clattering teeth, and the taste of salt water, and the smell of diesel and fish. And it was the single most electric, life-affirming, absolutely necessary thing that had ever happened to me. He was kissing me. The reckless scientist was kissing the guy who had saved his life. Twice. And I wasn't his rescuer. He wasn't my victim. We were just 2 survivors on a cold dock in the middle of a world that was too loud and too cold and too dangerous. And we were just holding on,